Hi everyone, I'm Brooke Silva Braga. President Trump is praising the historic meeting between North and South Korea. That praise began shortly after North Korean dictator Kim Jong Un walked across the border and shook hands with South Korean President Moon Jae-in. The two leaders promised to remove nuclear weapons from the Korean peninsula and agreed to work on a peace deal. During a Friday news conference with German Chancellor Angela Merkel, President Trump said he was encouraged by the news from the Korean border. He said that something, quote, very dramatic could happen when he meets with Kim Jong Un in the coming weeks or months. Margaret Brennan has the latest.
We're not going to be played, okay? We're going to hopefully make a deal. If we don't, that's fine.
President Trump said that unlike his predecessors, he would not be fooled by North Korea and would halt its nuclear development.
We will not repeat the mistake of past administrations. Maximum pressure will continue until denuclearization occurs. I look forward to our meeting.
The administration is hoping that meeting between President Trump and Kim Jong Un will happen in the coming weeks. The president said today the location for the summit has been narrowed down to 2 countries. Mr. Trump would be the first American president to risk a face-to-face encounter.
This should not have been left for me to handle.
President Clinton sent Secretary of State Madeleine Albright to meet with Kim's father. Their agreement was broken during the Bush administration. President Obama's diplomatic offers were rejected. And previous agreements between the North and South didn't last. This latest diplomatic leap was masterminded by Moon Jae-in, president of U.S. ally South Korea, who convinced Kim to take the first steps across the DMZ in 65 years. The two men even held hands at one point during the 12-hour summit, which came after a year of rising tensions that led the Trump administration to weigh military action. The meeting prompted President Trump to tweet, "Korean War to end." But that is not exactly what happened.
Very little was agreed upon. The vast majority of it was aspirational.
Michael Morrell is the former deputy director of the CIA and CBS's senior national security contributor.
Well, today, North Korea said they'd agreed to denuclearize. What does that actually mean?
For North Korea, denuclearization comes at the end of a process. It comes after the end of the Korean War, after a peace treaty, after sanctions relief, after normalization of relations with the United States. Denuclearization to us is tomorrow, not 10 years from now.
Margaret Brennan reporting. And again, that summit between President Trump and Kim Jong Un could be as early as next month. And for more on this, I'm happy to be able to bring in CBS News foreign correspondent Ben Tracy. He's there on the streets of Seoul, South Korea. Ben, what's the reaction there to this big news?
Well, I'd say it's cautious optimism here in the South. I mean, this is getting a lot of play. This is the front page of one of the papers. You see this big picture of Moon Jae-in and Kim Jong Un, and it says stepping into the future. I think a lot of people think that a lot more has come out of this summit than people were expecting. Yes, it's light on specifics, but the fact that these two leaders seem to have the rapport they had at this summit has led a lot of people to be excited about where this may go, and that this might finally be the kind of agreement that North Korea actually follows through on.
A lot of times following these big international stories, we forget the first rule of politics. All politics is local. What are the domestic politics in South Korea that could make peace hard?
Well, you know, you do have a conservative faction here that has not been supportive of Moon Jae-in really trying to engage North Korea. There's a lot of people that say we've been down this road before here in South Korea and we've been burned by the North before. Why is this any different? But then you do have another side saying that this does feel like a different time, that this might be a different kind of North Korean leader. And Kim Jong Un did seem to be more candid than his father and his grandfather were. He talked about the crumbling roads in North Korea, which is kind of a stunning admission for a North Korean leader to make, where they usually want you to believe that everything there is perfect. So there are some South Koreans that believe they might be dealing with a different kind of leader in the North.
You mentioned it's sketchy on specifics. What do we know about the timeline and what the next steps would be?
Well, the big thing in this agreement is that they say they want the complete denuclearization of the Korean peninsula, but there is no definition as to what that means. There is no timeline. There is no process for how that gets done. So that is a glaring hole in this agreement. It's one thing to say that is their goal. That's been said many, many times before. The question is, how do you get there? What is North Korea willing to give up on what timeline, and more importantly, what do they want in return. Complete denuclearization in North Korea could mean removing all U.S. troops from the Korean Peninsula. It could mean that the U.S. has to give up all of its nuclear weapons if there's going to be denuclearization. So there's still a definition of terms that needs to be done before we really know how much there is in this agreement.
And to that point, something Koreans were happy to hear, the statement also emphasized that the two Koreas can work this out themselves. So what does that mean for President Trump's big meeting with Kim Jong Un coming up?
Well, that has been a big push from both Kim Jong Un and Moon Jae-in. They have all along said that they want to solve these problems as the two Koreas, that this is an inter-Korean process. Obviously, they know that the United States has to be involved. China has to be involved to a certain degree. You think about one of the big goals here is they want to end the Korean War. Well, South and North Korea can't actually do that on their own. They need the U.S. to sign off on that. They need China to sign off on it because they were both signatories to that armistice back in 1953. So there are real structural issues here, and President Trump obviously will play a huge role. His summit with Kim Jong Un, which we're expecting to happen next month or in early June, that hopefully will fill in some of the details here about how all of these goals become reality.
Okay, Ben Tracy working literally around the clock for us in Seoul, South Korea. Thanks so much, Ben.
Thanks.